Coming. Can anyone see my screen? Oh, okay, so is it Mrs. or Miss? Either one. Maybe, Mrs. Bisola. Is it Mrs.? Let me be sure. I'm not okay. So we started yesterday with introducing what we do, the role of an analytical engineer, and what exactly that we do, the value of an analytical engineer, right? So, from your own understanding, do you have any idea of who or what an analytical engineer does? And do you have any previous experience within the data field? Ms. Bisola, the question was for you. Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, I think the rain is affecting my network. The rain is definitely affecting my network. So, did you hear the question I asked before the interruption? Okay, okay, so don't worry, I'll correct that. My network is very terrible. Please, if you're not hearing me clearly, let me know. I can't even load any. So, yes, in your own understanding, okay, no problem. In your understanding, your idea of an analytical engineer is like the combination of both data engineer and data analyst. Well, that is kind of not, I won't say is exactly right, but how I'll put it is we kind of stand in between, we stand in between analysts and data engineer, right? So we are not exactly analyzing, yeah, we are not analyzing that. Our role is not to analyze data and derive insights. That is the role of a data analyst, right? And our role is also not to build um, data pipelines, right? So data engineers, they are responsible in what you would call data. And here is a practical example. So you have your app, you have your Instagram app, right? When you go into your Instagram app, you will log in as a user. Everything you see in the app, right? So from your registration, when you sign up, when you log in, all your images that you upload, all the all the all the posts you make, right? These are all data that is being transferred from your mobile phone to the server or to the storage device. So it's a data engineer's responsibility to build these pipelines that transfer data from one point to the other, right? To build these pipelines that transfer data from one point to the other for various tools, various softwares, various applications, right? Any application you can think of, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, any pipeline that transfers the data from you as a user to the end, to provide to the second user or to the storage that performs a lot. It goes through processing, right? Your data goes through processing from one end to another. That is one example of a data pipeline that a data engineer is responsible for. Within, let me say, high operational companies, a data engineer would also go in and build their pipelines for their, they have internal softwares and internal tools. Let me say a person's software now is tracking an IoT platform or an IoT device, right? So data is being streamed from this device to the company's storage. That is a data engineer's responsibility. So what is now an analytical engineer's responsibility? We tend to sit in the middle because what we do is we are responsible. So if a data engineer is responsible for all the data, right, that's been transformed in a software, we are responsible only for analytical data reporting. Right? So analytical analytical data pipelines. This is our core responsibility, right? We build this guy here, and the method in building this is completely different from what data engineers use, right? So we are not exactly data engineers, we're also not exactly um, data analysts. So when we build these pipelines, when we build the results, the end result is a curated data set, right? That a data analyst can now use from their end. They can make use of our end results. So our end results will be useful, useful data sets that are usually inside a data warehouse. And I'll show you a good example. So these are usually inside a data warehouse. What we do is we perform data modeling, and data transformation. We perform data modeling and data transformation. We manage data sets, so that is internal reporting data sets for companies. Data sets. We manage and build data sets, right? So why is this role itself very important? Now remember our the end users of our products or what we are building is their stakeholders. So they could be data analysts, they could also be the executives within a company, right? So an executive could be the end user of your product. Maybe your data set will be connected to a dashboard, a Power BI dashboard, and then it will be your what you built would be displayed for executive to use. So why is this role very important? Now, it's really just depends on it points out to the value you provide to the company, right? So a data engineer is building pipeline for this app, right? He's building pipeline for this app, and then data is being processed from one end to the other end. Now, if a user maybe a little glitch happens and a user has data leakage, or maybe is unable to see his data or something, right? For one user or maybe millions of users, right? It will affect the company publicly. But now, but now our role now, so we build these pipelines for the executive users, they are going to use the data sets that we build to make decisions within their company. So on the data engineers aspect, this one user can't find his data. Right? Maybe it can be rectified and he gets his data back. The worst that usually happens at data engineering aspect is data leakages, right? But it can always be rectified. Now, imagine you as an analytical engineer, you prepare pipelines, you prepare your analytical pipelines, your analytical system for the executives to use, right? And then one thing is off from your reports. One thing is off from your so instead of reporting $5 million, right? Your report is reporting like 4 point something $1 million, and your executive, the top leaders go and make decisions based on that single error that you went to go and create, right? That you made up. That is going to lead to huge losses for the company. So your product, what you do, your product speaks to these internal guys, right? The guys at the top of the company, very valuable guys, are using what you built for them to make decisions of. While data engineers, they build products that the general public can use or they can make use of, right? Pipelines, systems, infrastructure, low level stuff that the general public makes use of. And their work is usually more technical, so far more technical than an analytical engineer, right? For their role, they use a whole lot of technical tools, Kafka, PySpark, AWS, cloud-based tools, Azure, and the likes. But for a data engineer, we are kind of limited to SQL. SQL, we are limited to a data warehouse, and then we also need to have very good insights from the business point of things, right? Which is where you said we also double as a data analyst. So yes, the way we double as a data analyst is we understand the entire business role, right, to what we are doing. So take for example, you're building a pipeline for a finance for a bank for a banking for an executive in a bank, right? All your data pipelines, all your data sets that you're creating that they would use would have to be speaking to bank-based metrics, right? So you're calling out and you understand those metrics as an analytical engineer. A data engineer might not necessarily have any business to do with metrics, business side of things, right? His pure focus might be completely technical. Is building streaming pipelines that Netflix you're using to watch Netflix, your movie on Netflix. Is building pipelines that Uber is using to determine what routes that their car is going to take. While you're building data sets that the executive inside Uber, right? Those guys are using to see what is going on in their business. So you're doubling as an engineer and also as a business partner, right? You're understanding the business part of things. So I want to show you an example. I'll show you an example of just a very simple example of what we do. So this platform is BigQuery, right? BigQuery is one of the most popular tools, cloud-based tools that is being used not just as an analytical engineer but data engineers. Lots of companies make use of it. So we have this. Okay, yeah. mm, I don't really do Microsoft products, but they have Microsoft Fabric. So that is your. Yeah, no, I don't. You don't even need to learn multiple things. I don't do Microsoft tools. Mm. So this course, this program is mostly focusing on Google BigQuery and DBT, right? Mr. Moyo, welcome. Mr. Moyo, can you hear me? Yeah, good evening. Welcome. So we've started few minutes ago, but don't worry, I'll try to go back through what I just went through. Okay. Yeah, it's being recorded. Okay, so here's a very good example now. I work particularly in my experience is more in the e-commerce side of things, right? So we have imagine you as an e-commerce owner, an e-commerce store owner. You have a store, or rather, you have multiple stores, right? You have a store in Europe, you have a store in USA, you have a store in maybe where else, Asia or somewhere else, right? So you have these different stores. All your stores are doing like millions of dollars in revenue, or hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? In revenue, and you want to make decisions, you want to make analysis on what is going on inside your store. But your job is just to come and look at the entire, right, um, the entire thing that's happening in your store, right? But now you have multiple stores. You just want to see all your reports in one central view, right? So now we have this e-commerce store. This is one example, right? So this store has been making millions of dollars, right? And then you have another one. That one has been making millions of dollars. But you want to understand not just your revenue. You want to understand your user behavior within the store, how to improve what is going on inside the store, right? You want to understand your user journey in the store. You want to improve your marketing and everything. So, number one, you have a Shopify store. Then, secondly, we now have you have this tool. So this is Google Analytics. This tool is responsible for tracking user journey on your store, right? Across all your stores. It helps you to optimize your store. It helps you to improve your pricing and every other thing. And you're getting data from Google Analytics, right? You're getting data from your Shopify stores, all of them. You're getting huge amounts of data from these different stores. And everything is now going into your warehouse, right? It's entering into your warehouse as a large data set. You need to analyze them and make useful information from it. The process of converting all the data that has come in from here, that's coming from your store, the process of converting all those raw information to a very useful product that one person, the data analyst or the executive, the top leaders can see and make their next $1 million decision on is everything that you build, right? So this here now. So if you see this data set, this is a Shopify raw data set. This data set is the raw, like is the unfiltered or untransformed data that comes directly from this store. In this case, this is a sample store, right? It's just coming from one store. You could have situations where it's coming from multiple store. While these data sets here also come from your Google Analytics, right? You're getting hundreds of thousands of data points on a daily basis. You want to convert that into something digestible that the end users can make use of. So you're now going to your BigQuery. You go into your data warehouse. This marks here, right? This is literally your end result. This is the solution. This is what you're aiming to build. Now, if you look at this, if you look at everything here is referred to as a data set, right? Is the data set your end users will make use of. And every data set here speaks to a particular business decision, a particular business process. So if you don't understand the business process, you won't be able to understand what is going on here. That is why it's very important to understand the business side of things from the point of view as a data analyst. So you're able to prepare these data sets that they can make that is very useful to them. Right? You're not just building data sets for yourself, you're building data sets for end users to make use of. So now we have 5 data sets here, right? And these data sets came from these two tables, this one up here and this one here. This is from Shopify, this is from Go Analytics. Between this Shopify raw and this analytics, your transformation has gone through separate stages. It has gone through this stage, it has gone through this stage, and it has now landed in this stage, right? That is the process of data modeling and data transformation. We call it is data modeling, right, and data transformation. So if we look at the math layer, this is a layer, right? We have attributed orders. This speaks to the analyst, right? The analyst wants to attribute an order to the source it came from. It's an e-commerce terminology, right? You have channel revenue. The analyst wants to understand where their most revenue is coming from. Is it coming from Google ads? Is it coming from Instagram ads? Is it coming from Meta ads, right? So that they will know how to optimize their marketing campaigns, right? These are the results they want on their end. This is funnel, and this is fact funnel, right? This is for understanding the user journey on their store, right? Maybe the user, you went to Gigi or you went to Jumia, you viewed a cart, you viewed an item, you checked the item, you added it to cart, then you removed it. They would see everything here, right? And they can use it to analyze your behavior. Why are you adding this to a cart? Are you just window shopping, or are you just trying to find the perfect product? Right? They will view everything within this data set. So you can see that all your data sets will be organized to answer a specific objective, right? Now, if this single data set, this funnel data set is poorly done, and they are receiving user journeys that are false or completely wrong, they can go and create an entire campaign that will mislead them. Hence, they lose money, right? So we have other data sets inside here, other lines and orders. Those are every orders that were made in your store. So there are reasons why it creates data sets like this, right? So that is not the core objective of an analytical engineer, building the end data sets that the business users can make use of, right? You want to communicate business language with them, but you're handling the entire technical team building these data sets. Now, if you look at all this now, you say, but this looks kind of simple. You can, it's just one, two, three. Is that all? But mind you, this is the actual project behind what you're building, right? Everything here is the actual project that has gone into that. So let me open the second one. So everything inside this project, right, is what has gone into just building those three data sets, 3 or 4 data sets that you saw inside there. Everything inside this project, right, is what you're seeing. So let's go to this. If you look at this now, everything inside here is all your these are all your models, right? You built from your source, you built from your origin, you built models in between, you built models in between, all trying to answer one question. Why are there many models like this? Because your models have to follow a particular structure. If you don't understand the structure you're trying to follow, you'll be creating chaos, right? You build different models. Every model has their own flow of data. So this just shows the lineage, right? How your data is being processed from one end to the other. So all these now, these are the technical part of things of what an analytical engineer does. If you do all this and you still cannot communicate to the end users, who are your data analysts and stakeholders, you've really not done your work, right? So business understanding is key to everything we are doing here. So where are okay, so far, do you have any question? Do you have before I continue? Do you have any question? Do you have anything to ask? Maybe I can clarify one or two more things properly. Anyone wants any question? No question. Okay, so I guess I'll continue. Where was it? Okay, I'll get so, yeah. So this is a basic example of an analytical pipeline that you're building. So you have your sources, right, that I just demonstrated. You could have way more different sources. This is just an e-commerce example, right? When you're learning, you're going to pick a particular industry, right? So that you focus on how to communicate that industry terms and terminology properly, right? So this is just for e-commerce. So we have our sources from here, and everything is being directed, all the data is being directed into a data warehouse, which is BigQuery. There are other examples of data warehouses, like you said, for Microsoft. There's Fabric, Microsoft Fabric, and they also have their data warehouse. I don't really know the name of their data warehouse. So Fabric is an entire. They try to Fabric for Microsoft Fabric. They try to combine everything inside one single tool, right? So they try to combine transformation, ingestion, and a lot of other things. I'm not really interested in their product. We have BigQuery from GCP, right, from Google Cloud Platform. We have for AWS also. We have a warehouse from AWS. I think Redshift. Then we have the other popular warehouses, very popular outside Nigeria. We have Snowflake and we have Databricks. They all have different ways they work, right? So you're not going to use the same warehouse for every little situation. But in most cases, it's just best when you're learning, you learn with one. That is the best. Then you transfer your knowledge to any other one you want to learn and move ahead with. So we have BigQuery. Everything is being stored into BigQuery, right, as a central storage. Then we use DBT. So the tool we'll be using is BigQuery. That is one. We are not installing it; it's accessed directly on the browser. What we would install is DBT. Very straightforward to install. So DBT is our transformation tool. Right? Is the industry standard in data transformation. If you pick any data engineering JD or analytical engineering JD, you will see DBT in it. At least 7 out of 10 you would see DBT in it. DBT SQL. So DBT is SQL if you have used SQL before, but it's like a framework around SQL. When we get into DBT, I'll explain it better. And then after your transformation, you now every all those data sets that you saw, right? The funnel, the attribution, the orders, right? Those data sets will now be connected to a BI tool, right? A visualization tool like Power BI. In this case, we'll be using Metabase. So Metabase is another alternative for Power BI. You use it to visualize and create your dashboards and the likes, right? And then at the end, you can also, because everything that you're building as an analytical engineer can be packaged as a product, right? It can also be embedded into an app, right, or a software, or any solution, right? It's not necessary it must be Power BI. It can be embedded into a website. It can be created as a website and deployed to many users to make use of. So this is the general procedure of what an analytical engineer does. Additional skills that you can learn as an analytical engineer is orchestration and containerization. So these two down here, they are primarily software engineering and data engineering skills, but it's never right. It's something that is a big bonus if you learn it and understand what you're doing. The reason why is because analytical engineering is still a very big subset of data engineering, right, and software engineering. So these are still software engineering terminologies, but this is out of scope for what we are learning. This will be out of scope for what you're learning. So this is what we are focusing on. BigQuery, DBT, and then a visualization tool. So, um, okay, so I wanted to show you an example of what can be built using these tools. So here's a sample, right? Some tools I came across for inspiration. These are what helped me to think of projects to build as an analytical engineer. So this is one. This is a live product inside Shopify. So it's a tool for making data-driven decisions for online stores, right? For both Shopify and Amazon. So the same example I gave, you have multiple Shopify stores, and in this case now, this product is for people who have Shopify stores and Amazon stores. They can see everything in a single product, right? This is an example of products that can be built as an analytical engineer. And you can see there are many. The importance here is that they are tracking, um, they are communicating business relevant technology, right? P&L, customer acquisition cost, right? CAC, lifetime value, things that e-commerce owners can understand. They are not communicating BigQuery or DBT. No, you're speaking business level language, right? And another example this is another example of a project that someone built, right? A data engineer like us that is still learning, right? So he built this project to track costs across many different SaaS platforms. So he built it to track costs across Snowflake, across AWS, across OpenAI, across DBT Cloud, right? So this is another good example of what we do. So every data set that you build in your everything that I built here, right? Everything that I built here is literally what is being used at this end. Now, the end users who are the analysts will come here and make decisive information from what they are seeing here. In some cases, they could also come into the data warehouse directly and make direct analysis, right? So they can make direct analysis the within the data warehouse. Even at this level sef, this could be a good responsibility of an analytical engineer. So, like you said, a data analyst, you would also know SQL, right? And you make analysis there, and then probably export your analysis to whoever is going to make use of as the data analyst analyzer are going to make use of it. Okay, so that is a brief summary of what we do, the value that we produce or we create or offer as an analytical engineer. And don't worry, your skills actually cut across data engineering and data analysis. You're learning data modeling, you're learning data transformation, you're going to learn how to design a data warehouse, right? How to use data warehouses, right? All this set of skills cuts across data engineering, right? You're going to still learn how to build out your metrics, your maths layer, right? The data sets that the data analyst would use, and then visualize this data on a tool which is Metabase. So these are all a mixture of data engineering and data analyst skills, right? So any question? Any question so far? Mr. Moyo, any question from you? Yeah, so any question from you? Okay. All right. So Miss Bisola, are you also good? Okay. So what we'll just do today is we will try to set up our tools that we will need for working, for the entire session, the entire class, right? Now, the major tool that I'll be using is DBT. So we need to install DBT on our system. BigQuery is already accessible on the browser. You also need to sign up. Just if you have a Google account, it's straightforward stuff. You go to Google Cloud Console, right? You search for Google Cloud Console, and then I'm already signed in. So it's not going to be a straightforward thing for me to sign in again. So you go to Google Cloud Console, and then you just click on sign in or get started for free. Now, if you're going to sign into one thing you're going to do, if you're going to sign into Google Cloud Console, you have two options. You can either put your credit card details in Google Cloud or leave it, right? Now, if you put in your credit card details, they're not charging you. So they have a free tier, which is completely free monthly, and that is enough for learning, right? So let me even show you a good example. I've been using their tool since, like, was it early last year, and obviously I've not been billed, right? As long as you don't cross a particular threshold, you will not get billed. So it's not going to be an issue, right? So completely $0 since God knows when that I've been using it. So you have a lot of free. Now the downside is, if you decide not to put in um your card details, you will have certain limitations to what you can use inside. You face certain limitations to what you can use. So I'll just advise to put in your card details, and I guarantee you that you won't get charged at all. So when you're signing in as a new user, they give you this $300 free credit. You may not even use it. You actually never use it. I never did. made use of it, because the free tier covers everything, right? And we are using only one product inside Google Cloud Console, which is the BigQuery. And free tier under BigQuery covers everything that we're going to be doing. So till you will not be using this, you will have no use for this $300 honestly. So please, if you can sign up for this BigQuery. I don't know if you want to do that now or if you want to do that on your own later on. It's a straightforward process. So what I can go ahead and show you is for DBT. So close this. So we want to one question. Are you guys going to follow along to install DBT on your system? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. Even I think I will have a document. I'll share a document also based on this. For DBT to install it is usually one single code. So download extension in CLI. Start in CLI. Install DBT Fusion now. So the only thing you need to install DBT, I will put this in a document, right? In a Google document and even share it. Is just this is the code that you need, right? Once you copy this code, you go to your PowerShell. So we'll be using this PowerShell, this terminal a lot. This is one of the things that we'll be using a lot. So we'd have to learn a lot of command line in PowerShell. So what you just do is you go to search for PowerShell, right, in your Windows. Hopefully, if you are using Windows, if any of you are using Mac, then there's also a code for Mac OS here. I think Mac OS has their own. I don't know if they have their own PowerShell or terminal. I've not used Mac before, but this is exactly the same code that you're going to copy. And for Windows, you just come over here and copy it, right? And then go in here and paste it, then click enter, and it will download into your system, right? So mine is already inside. So DBT already exists in use update flag to reinstall, right? Mine already exists inside. So once you install it, to check if your DBT exists, you can just do something like this. And then if you see a response, so DBT Fusion 2.00, it means your DBT project, your DBT has been installed in your system. That is all, right? And like that, we can start building our project. So once you've done this, once you've signed up for BigQuery, we can move ahead. Right. The last tool that we would need is called Metabase. But this we don't need this early on, so we'll be leaving this for now, right? This is a BI tool. We'll start with building our project before we now move into installing this one. The process of installing this one is kind of a bit more complex, right? And not straightforward like installing DBT. So we'll get to this later on as the class proceeds. Call ends in 15 minutes. It's just 8 o'clock. Okay, so that is the general introduction of everything that we'll be doing today. Right. So from next week Saturday is when we now get hands on. You can go back to the video if you need any reference. So from next week Saturday we'll now start properly, start going deep into building, understanding what we do, all the things that we do. So there are common things that we have to learn. Couple of things that we have to learn is how to model data, how to transform data, how to set up how to use your data warehouse, properly, right? How to set up your DBT project, right? So this is a DBT project right here. How to set up your DBT project and use it. Most of the code that we'll be using, so most of the SQL code I'll be using is going to be generated by AI, because this is not primarily to learn SQL. SQL is an entire monster on its own, right? But you would still understand, as long as you understand DBT, you would still pick up on some basic SQL terms, right? Like select from where, basic stuff, you would pick up all those ones easily, right? So that is going to be that is going to be it for today, right? Because unfortunately there's no light and my battery is completely down. So that's a brief introduction into what we'll be doing. So what we'll be doing for the next 2 months. Yeah, yeah. You also be using. Okay, I didn't even mention, maybe because I'm too used to VS Code. If you don't have VS Code, also you would also need to install VS Code, right? Because VS Code is our ID I'll be using. So it's also very straightforward. Just go and search for install VS Code. Sorry, my battery is low, so it's going to start VS Code. It's going to start acting up. So just download VS Code for your operating system. So those three, VS Code, DBT, and BigQuery. Right, you're not necessarily learning VS Code. There's really nothing to learn in VS Code. You're just making use of it. Okay, so is that okay? All right. So Miss Bisola, how about you? Okay. All right. So I'll see if I can maybe add. I'll upload any recording that I do is usually uploaded to YouTube. Right. So I'll share the link in the group, the YouTube link in the group. So every class that we made, the recording is uploaded there, and you can always reference it. All right. So